Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm here with Ariel from Icon for Hire. How are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm very impressed you said my name correctly.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I did definitely look it up because I didn't want to be like Ariel, Ariel. I didn't want to.
Everyone says Ariel, so I wouldn't have batted an eye, but more power to you. That's great.
Didn't want to slip up from, straight out the gate. So,
Yeah.
First things first, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I've had a crazy morning on hold with customer service bullcrap all morning. So this is a welcome relief to just be here and talk about music with you. I'd much rather be doing that.
I bet. What did you get your stuff sorted out, or is
Nope.
it still nope?
Nope. Not yet. We'll see. Just breathing through it,
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Exactly.
So how are you coping with lockdown and everything? Have you picked up any lockdown hobbies or anything like that?
I have, for sure. I was like making my own cheese in the spring, my own bread. I made ketchup, mayonnaise, just all the condiments. And then in the fall, I started rollerblading, and I've actually stuck with that. So a couple times a week, I like to go rollerblade around a track. It's really nice.
Nice. Any accidents, or have you been all right?
Okay, I've been good so far, but I don't know how to stop. So
it's quite important.
Yes. So there's this one part, like if I don't get a good parking spot by the track, if I have to park somewhere else, then I have to kind of go down a hill. And so twice now I've gone down the hill, and my stopping method is just to like kind of fall before I hit the curb, like brace myself. But I wear the whole thing. I've got the helmet and the pads, all of it, because I need it.
So you're pretty safe. You're okay.
I think so, yeah. But I'm clumsy. I do need that stuff to protect me. Yeah.
You're going to get better with time. So just keep on going, keep wearing that safety gear, and hopefully you don't like break a neck or anything, because that
I know. I've literally been like YouTubing how to stop, but it hasn't clicked in my head yet. So we'll see.
Until then, jumping on the floor will do.
Yep.
And sod's law will be, you'll just as like touring starts opening up again, you'll have an accident, and it's like, right, well, I can't tour now.
Oh, don't say that. That would be like the worst thing in the world. That'd be so sad.
That would be terrible.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get right into the new music. So you've got a new album on the way, Amorphous. How are you guys kind of feeling about the release at this point? Because I think it's a week today, actually, isn't it? That comes out.
It's a week from today.
Just around the corner.
I feel so excited. Mostly just the thought of all these songs that have been like sitting, on a SoundCloud link, finally being in the hands and ears of our listeners. That gets me really excited, because I know that when I see their responses to stuff, I'm going to be like, oh my God, yeah, I forgot we did that. Oh yeah, that was really cool. Because I'm not sitting here listening to our songs, on repeat by any means. So it's been a minute since we've recorded them. I'm excited for them to be in the world. And really, we just feel grateful. This was a crowdfunded album, so it's pretty cool, everything we've been able to do leading up to it.
Yeah. Well, you kind of touched on a few points there that I kind of want to dig into a bit more. So, the crowdfunding for a start, I think you raised over, was it $263,000, which is crazy.
Yeah. Like, it's amazing.
How did that feel? Like, I can't even think about how that would feel.
It feels amazing. It feels like we feel so supported, we feel that represents like 3,300 people that wanted this project to be made enough that they backed it financially in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
We did not expect it to do as well as it did, but it has allowed us to create so much more cool art. We've got visualizers for every single, we're doing bigger music videos than we've ever done. We're in the process of producing a virtual live stream, like a live concert virtually. Yeah. These are all things that weren't really on the table when we started the Kickstarter, but now that they are on the table, so I feel really lucky. Yeah. Yeah.
And you kind of touched on it as well, like, especially during these times where financially not everyone is, as stable as they were, even 12 months ago. Yeah. So it's crazy that, you've still got these amount of supporters that not only want to, but are able to as well, which is great.
You're right. And I think I'm looking, we're all examining like what our values are. I think in COVID, we're like, family matters, people matter, like everything matters differently maybe than what our priorities were before COVID. Yeah. And for me personally, I think for some of our audience, I have found music as one of the things that still has staying power, that is still really important. And one of the kind of small, rare things throughout this that does provide comfort and relief, like music still makes us feel, like we're connected to the human experience. And so to me, that says just how powerful it is, really, the fact that that music is still in demand in a pandemic.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like the overarching like desire and priority is connection, whether that's human connection, musical connection, and obviously you guys have got your Patreon as well, which is combining the two as well.
Yeah,
so,
you're so right. That's a good point.
Yeah. And we kind of, we're touching on the pandemic, which you can't really avoid in this day and age. But how did that kind of like interplay into the writing and the recording of the album? Did you guys like have it kind of pretty much done before COVID hit, or have you been like sitting on it and it's just like waiting for seeing how things pan out? Like what happened basically?
Yeah. COVID actually helped us make the album because the producer we wanted to use was suddenly available because all of his clients canceled.
Right.
So we were on tour in Europe through March 13th or 14th. So we had to go home and cut the tour short because of COVID. And we had a group of songs ready to go, some that we had finished out in Europe, but then we were able to call up the producer that we wanted, and he was like, yep, I've got openings, come on in. So we merged quarantines together and we're really safe. And for like a month and a half, we just pretty much lived at a studio and made the album. And that's kind of cool because there was so much uncertainty at that time. So we were able to capture some of that angst and just like crazy what is happening feeling in some of the songs.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I think you can kind of hear it in some of the songs. Like, you still have kind of like eclectic choice of like sounds. Like, if you listen to like Brittle, there's like some drum and bass kind of sounds in there. And then you've got a few like hard rock songs and stuff like that. Yeah, so I can definitely kind of hear like the anger and kind of like frustration in some of those songs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of bands are going to, like I know Bring Me the Horizon, their whole theme for their first EP right now has been anger or something. I think that's going to be everything we're all talking about. Like, this album is about how much I hate what's happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've already put a few singles out so far. Like, obviously, the rest, some people haven't heard yet because obviously the album's not out. But how do you feel those kind of the ones that are out there to the public, how do you think they kind of like represent the album? Do you think they kind of sum up the album as a whole, or do you think it's just kind of like just giving bits and bobs and the best is yet to come?
Yeah, I think we're trying to with a single, we're trying to give out what we think will be fan favorites, right? We're trying to release music that we hope more people will resonate with. And then there'll be some people who just ignore the rest of the album, but there'll be some people who want to dig in deeper, and maybe we get to take our relationship to that next level where they get to hear more intimate stuff like background sad or panic attacks, stuff that's a little bit more like close to the chest kind of, that wouldn't maybe make sense for a single. So it's meant to be an introduction, to the music.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of like made you land on Amorphous as the title of the album? Like, why that as the title?
Well, I don't know if you've Googled it, but it pretty much means whatever we need it to mean. It means like without a defined form, without a lot of space. So I can use it to mean whatever I need it to be based on the interview I'm giving that day, which is great. But it really is just meant to describe that feeling before you become who you become. So it's the process of transformation. It's, to me, that grittiness and the dirt and the unperfect parts that are part of the struggle of being human before you show off like, ta-da, here's the finished product. Yeah. So that's saying, hey, the album is not ta-da, here's the finished product. The album is the struggle and the mess and being in the grind of what it's like to be human. And that relates to a lot of the themes on the album, which are talking about how far I feel like I've come internally with some of my self-loathing, and then how far I feel like I have to go. Yeah.
I think it kind of says as well, like, there's no shame in not being a finished product. Like, everyone's a work in progress, and you'll always be a work in progress.
You said it better than I did. Yeah, that.
Yeah, just steal that for any future interview.
I will. That's write that
down. So you guys are very much, an independent band. On your last album, You Can't Kill Us, you kind of went head first into that. You didn't have any like label like supporting you and stuff. Yeah. What kind of lessons do you think you learned from that experience that you kind of like, pulled out and improved upon this time around?
Great question. We learned a lot. At the time, we gave the best that we had to give, right? That was the top of the line for us. And now, a few years later, this is the top of the line. And next time, hopefully we can keep growing. But we obviously learned that our fans have our back, right? Because we crowdfunded that. We had no idea if it would work. We were really just going blind, like, ta-da, we're off the label. Will you support us? Our fans came around us. We learned how powerful that story is when you open up vulnerably and share. You know, we had a pretty compelling story with our label, Sean's addiction struggles. We filed bankruptcy. We got out of the label. It was a lot. And we opened up about that and we're honest, and people connected with that. That made, you talked about connection. It made it easy for people to connect with us. Yeah. So this time around, we had to, you know, see if there was a way to connect with our fans again and invite them into the process again, you know, and the fact that they kept showing up for us is really meaningful. And then I'd say on the more practical side, we learned that we want our music to have more live elements. That was the first album without our drummer. So we didn't have real drums. We just had programmed drums.
Right.
And I didn't think that that mattered, but now I can hear the difference. And I'm like, oh, that's why people use real drums. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, being independent, you know, the fans are very much a big part of how you guys can, like, you know, survive and sustain.
Yep.
How much do they kind of like have a role in you guys creating your work? Obviously you want to make material that you're happy with and you're content with, but you also want to make the fans happy, because, you know, if you come out with an avant-garde album, it's probably not going to go down too well.
Oh yeah. Interesting. So we, through our Patreon, we do monthly live streams, and in that we're pretty interactive, and we'll often say, this is what's coming. What do you think about this? We need ideas for this. Help us with this. And I think of it like, instead of sitting around a table with a record label, we're sitting around the table with our record label, discussing future ideas and plans and getting input from everyone.
Yeah.
And then on the song making level, I like to get input from the fans. I like to hear what they like. So on this album, we went a little heavier because we heard that they want us to go heavier. And so I'm like, yes, I'm all about it. Like, I'm all in. And then there are some things that we don't get requests for that I do anyway. For example, I really like to do hip hop stuff. Not a lot of people are asking for me to do hip hop stuff, but right. I want to do it, so I'm doing it. So it is a balance. Yeah.
Is there any is there any point where, you know, where is the balance? Because obviously you don't want to go too far into a fan's direction where it's kind of like you're compromising on what you want to do.
Yeah, no, it's just that inner knowing. I just follow my gut. I know that if I show up authentically, I really trust that I've built up fans who know me, who trust me, who want to hear from me and want us to succeed. And so I always know that if I am uncovering a deeper part of me and getting more vulnerable, there will be someone there to connect with that. I always trust that. And that is number one. So it's kind of nice having been a band this long. I kind of feel like we already have our fan base built up. Like, we're good. Like, we already know and love each other, you know? Yeah.
I mean, you know, it could, like you kind of said, like, you're an established band, so you've already got that fan base to kind of pull from and like launch that kind of, you know, crowdfunding platform for you guys to kind of like stand on and then, you know, create your albums and create your work and stuff like that. And then you've got nowadays bands that are just coming out, or, you know, just someone sitting in their room making music. It's easier than ever now for someone to, you know, be an independent artist and be successful. Like, labels aren't, not that they're redundant, but they're not as important as they used to be.
Thank God. Yeah.
Like, what advice would you give to a band who is considering that like indie route? Like, what's, you know, there's got to be so many pitfalls there, because obviously you're cutting out, you know, a label you can consider like a bank, and they like help with some business decisions and artistic directions and stuff like that. So
I know. I mean, our label experience just wasn't for us. You know, it was not a great one. So we already went down that road. So it was easy for us to go all in on this and be like, we are committed. We are committed to the only way we're going to survive is if our fans have our back. And so the advice that I would give is to be fostering that community and that connection along the way. We have had many years of shaking everyone's hands after the show, meeting everyone, signing everything for hours, DMs on Instagram, lots of one-on-one connection points with our fans. And you do that thousands of times, and then you have thousands of fans, people who really have your back. You know, I remember anytime that I reach out to like any artist and they like see my comment and like it, I remember that forever. I'm like, oh yeah, she's my friend. Like, you know, even though she has no idea who I am, in my head, we're tight. And so the beauty of this is that any new band can, and it's actually easier for them to interact on a one-on-one basis with their 5 fans. You know, I often hear people, they're like, I don't have any fans, it's just my friends and family. Okay, start there. Like, your friends and family have other friends and family that can find you, because also playing live shows was such a good thing for us to start. And I know people don't have that right now, but they do have YouTube Live that we didn't really do back then. You know, they do have Instagram Live. You've got people who can connect with you if you make it easy for them to see themselves in you, which you do that by being vulnerable and by sharing, and being open and getting over your insecurities and just being honest about who you are.
Yeah. I think even if you don't feel like you have those connections like readily accessible, like the digital age right now, you can connect to anyone from any side of the world instantly. Like, you know, people go viral on, you know, TikTok or whatever it may be with just like one song.
I know, but I think people use that to not try. They use that as a reason to not engage because they probably won't go viral on TikTok. They'll probably be on it for 6 months and be frustrated and give up. But can you focus on the 5 comments that you did get, and can you connect with them and turn those into fans? Those fans are lifers. Like, you know that book, is it 1,000 fans or, no, it's not even a book. It's 1,000 Real Fans. It's a blog post from like 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a viral blog post. This guy just shared, if you have 1,000 real fans, you can support yourself as a musician. And there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
You know, 1,000 is possible. We can all probably gather 1,000 fans for each of us.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, you want fans, you don't want numbers. Like, you know, back in like the MySpace days, you'd have, you know, I think every band at that time was guilty of this, but, you know, you just add people to then hope that they come and listen to you. And then, you know, your friends list might look like thousands upon thousands of people, but how many of them actually engaged in you as a band and your message?
Exactly. And that's why when I hear of artists inflating their numbers by, for example, buying streams on Spotify or buying Instagram followers, I always take pause at that because it really kind of dilutes you down. Then you're not able to access the real ones in there because your message is being spread out too far, too thin, and the algorithm doesn't know how to show you to the real people, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it will eventually, it'll work in the short term, but it probably won't work. You're not building a really good foundation there, and that'll probably bite you in the ass down the road. You're much better actually having 300 fans in London who'll show up when you do a show. Like, that's much more valuable than 500,000 Instagram followers.
Absolutely. And then, you know, that kind of support of, you know, these kind of like die-hard fans is how you get $263,000 to kickstart your album.
Wow, you really brought that around. Yes, exactly. Yep.
So what is the kind of the goals and plan with this album? Because obviously you've got the standards, you know, album campaign kind of, you know, you got your tour here, you do these videos and stuff like that, but a pandemic makes that a lot harder to kind of follow the blueprint, right? So what's the plan? For sure.
I don't know. We're a week away. We're still getting it locked in, but part of it is actually, a lot of it has already happened. We have thousands of pre-orders through the Kickstarter, through this pre-order campaign. We've been working for 6 months on this campaign. So a lot of the orders are happening on the front end. And then on the back end, we're going to do a virtual concert that I talked to you about. We'll be doing a lot of live streaming, a lot of engagement online, same stuff we always do, really. We'll just be very present and active. And then we're going to take a moment to focus on each song throughout the album in the aftermath. So each song will get like a focus week where we will just revisit that song on socials, invite people to restream it, tell them about the making of it, you know, maybe share an acoustic version, that whole thing.
That's cool.
And after that, we'll probably go back in the studio and make another one.
So can you tell me more about this live stream? Do you have like a date planned, or are you still kind of like working out?
We're so close. So Sean is actually, for one of the reasons Sean can't be here today is because he is so busy doing that. He's supposed to nail down the date. It's taking forever. It's a much bigger thing than we anticipated. But the good news is this is our first time doing it. So we're learning as we go. Once we figure that out, we should be able to plan to do more. And so hopefully the rest of 2021, we can do a show every month or two. Like, that would be awesome. But for date right now, it's looking like April. But like, I'm texting all my other musician friends who are doing it, and they're like, oh, you need to plan like 8 weeks from start to finish. And we're like, oh shit. Like, you really have to put it far out. It's a big job. Yeah.
So if you're going to do like these monthly live streams, you basically have to plan your live stream 2 months ahead. Like, you've got to plan 2.
Exactly. You have to be so organized. And that's something we've been working on internally, is not just working like a bunch of like hustling musicians who just do stuff, but trying to systematize, document, like have standard operating procedures, best practices, all these like boring entrepreneurial things that make it so we can put out more content into the world.
Yeah. I mean, it is boring, but it's kind of like, if you don't do that, then you can't do it, you know, consistently.
Then you can't. Yes. And it's a gift to our audience to have our ducks in a row, to have our shit together, right? Because there's always going to be things that life throws at us. Like this week, we're shipping out CDs. And the vinyl we actually ordered from UK, and they're now stuck at customs in Tennessee. So we were going to ship those vinyl out yesterday.
Right. Is that because of the whole Brexit thing as well? That's kind of like put a...
Yes, all of that, yeah. So now we know, never make the vinyl in the UK and bring it to the US. That was stupid. We screwed up, you know? So we learn every time. But we probably could have prevented that if we had done better research. But just that'll go on our operating procedures. Don't do that for the next time, and the next rollout will be smoother.
Awesome. So, I mean, on the terms of live stream, do you think, like in a post-COVID world, do you think live streams will kind of stick around, or do you think it's just kind of like a temporary thing?
What do you think?
I think they'll still be around, but not like, obviously every band's doing them now because there's no other option. But I think, there's some bands that just don't like touring. You have like online bands, don't you? And then they can just kind of do that. I think you kind of have the benefit of a live stream is, well, if we put it this way, so you've got constraints of a venue. Let's say a venue can only hold 300 people. If you have a live stream, you can have unlimited amount of people.
Yeah.
So financially, potentially, depending on what kind of production you put together for your live stream, it can be more financially beneficial to just have this space that you rent out. You do a live stream once every week, once every 2 weeks, whatever it may be. You put your price on your ticket. You don't have to work with a promoter or anything like that.
Yeah, it cuts out the middleman a little bit, especially if you're not selling tickets through Ticketmaster and they're not taking their like $4 a ticket, and if you're bundling merch with the virtual ticket, you're getting their email addresses so you can connect with them later. There's the potential is so big. It would be stupid of us as the industry to drop this model after COVID ends, Yeah. So, and I'm sure you're seeing this too. I'm seeing some artists who are really resistant to jump on the train because they're just kind of pissed that tours have been canceled. And so they're not engaging in this option and they're just going to wait it out. And I'm like, I think that'll not work. I think you're going to, some bands, obviously they're doing great. They don't care. They don't need to do virtual concerts. But for my other, bands at my level in this little space, we really should be utilizing all the options, getting on Twitch or starting a Patreon or doing the virtual shows. Just pivoting. And then if you want to keep those around after COVID, you have that option. And I hope that this helps all the bands rise, basically. I hope this makes life better for everyone. And it makes it better for our fans in Brazil who've wanted to see us play for years, but we don't get over there. And so now we can at least connect with them.
Exactly. Like fans all over the world can watch you and they don't have to pay a plane ticket to come and see you where you're touring. And you don't have to pay a plane ticket and visas and all that kind of stuff. So there's just so many, obviously you're not going to recreate that experience. The live experience. But
then maybe the live experience will be even more special. Like when you really go live, people will show up for that because it's quite a big deal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. There's pros and cons to both, but ultimately I think they will still be around, but it's just not going to be as, prominent and as frequent for obvious reasons, because obviously people can tour again. So.
Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yep. Well, I think that's pretty much all I want to ask. Is there anything you want to say? Any final words? Anything else you want to plug, obviously, other than the album?
Oh, no, I'm good. You've helped. Thank you for spreading the word. Thank you for having us.